Hey friends, had a great day. Had a pretty great day. So today I met with my my new best friend, my new buddy, whom I met when I was at the hospital getting my surgery a couple weeks ago. 2 weeks ago to the day. No, 2 weeks ago yesterday. Um, and so I've already sort of reported on this post a couple of times how serendipitous the meeting was. Because basically, I went to the hospital, have surgery, and I ended up meeting a collaborator, the collaborator, an animation designer, and rekindling a project that's been really, in some ways, I mean, it'd be hard to say it's the main project, but it is the project that if you'd given me a choice of like which of the projects that you're working on could you advance and ultimately see to fruition, like if you could only see one of them to fruition, which one would it be? This is probably the one I would have chosen. But I was stuck because I needed an animator. I needed an artist, a visual artist who can do this work. And lo and behold, I'm up in Canada getting surgery, meet a dude from Seattle, and all of a sudden we're working together on this thing. A little bit mind-blowing. And today, not only did we have a session where we sort of collaboratively bounced ideas around, but I put in some time before that just composing, just making music, creating the sound world, creating my first draft of the sound world of the piece. And man, if it wasn't just some of the most fun I can possibly imagine having, then I don't know what it was. It was like, and it was weird because I almost had this sort of dread of that process. I knew I was going to have to like present something to this guy because we talked about the music last time, and I was like, well, I can't just show up with no music. The piece is about music. I'll tell you all about it sometime. But suffice to say, it's an animated short about a young person studying piano and how that goes, and how that all how the process goes with her father and her grandfather, and a bunch of kind of aspects of the creative process in play. But going into the actual musical world a bit today, I mean, it was kind of like when I had to write a song a few months ago for a memorial, and all of a sudden, like, boom, I'm in the world. And I have to make something, and what comes through is like, whoa, I wouldn't have, I could have fooled me that was there, kicking around my brain. And I think, maybe one of the most exciting things about it is I was just cleaning the kitchen, listening back to what I created today, and it's the first draft. I mean, what ends up being in the film may end up being nothing like what I created today. But what I noticed was the process is unlocking ideas already about what the piece is about. In some ways, I had an intellectual and emotional idea that I rendered in terms of creating a script, and thought I kind of knew what it was, and had a clear sense. Like I had something where I was like, I know this can work. I know that this is a story worth telling. But then I started making the music, and it was like the whole thing expanded. And it became about so much more than my original idea. I'd had this idea about someone sort of being unlocked by the improvisational process, by suddenly being able to improvise, make up what they're playing, as opposed to having it be written out. Which is a valid and potentially really great story, right? But I was always a little worried that the statement, in other words, the idea that improvisational music is liberating and written out music is not liberating, which didn't have to be the takeaway that the story, it didn't have to be the moral of the story, but it was kind of implied in what I had written. It was sort of like, that's kind of what, it'd be hard to not see it that way, at least initially. And as I started making the music and looking at what really was coming through me musically, not intellectually, I started to realize, wait a minute, I think that the statement goes way beyond just like improvisation versus non-improvisation. I think the statement goes to a level of, how does an artist, how does a musician enter the domain where they are making music from their heart, where inspiration is able to pour through them. And that is such a bigger story, and it doesn't pit improvised music and classical music against each other. It draws from both, but it also, there's definitely going to be a step in the film where she goes from being kind of contained in a certain kind of rigorous and in some ways restrictive musical world, and then that opens up. But all of a sudden, I don't want to share too much, but there's a, but I'm also like, as I talk about it, I'm getting more and more ideas. This is how the creative process often works. If I open my mouth, stuff comes out. If I start to play a piano, stuff comes out. I discovered that the process naturally expands. The process of creating something inherently expands it. It can't not expand it. There's no two ways about it. It's got to go through that, and I'm somebody who gets so fascinated by a great idea that I think the mind kind of has it, like a really compelling, really elegant idea often manages to convince me I've got it, I know it. Like the script that I wrote, I felt like it captured something, and I kind of knew I had something. And the fact is, I do have something. We do have something. I didn't create this on my own. I just did the screenplay portion of it. But we have a real gem here. It's just that the gem we have might have more facets than I'm capable of seeing right now. And the process reveals that. The process reveals the art, reveals the meaning, it reveals the scope of itself. It was just a nice reminder. It was just a nice reminder today, because I, as I've been saying, I like to think that when I understand something, then the rest is just putting bricks in place. And it doesn't matter how many times I go through this process. I can write 100 songs or dozens of films, dozens of little sketches. There's something that's still a discovery every time I enter the process. Every time I enter the process teaches me something more. And today was one of those days. I couldn't have imagined where I would end up. And then just listening back to it is telling me the next steps. It's like the whole thing just opening up like a flower. So, pretty great day. Pretty positive. Pretty positive day. And this work will drain you. You will know you've worked if you do this kind of work. It takes it out of you, but it also puts it in you. It also gives you the deepest joy and satisfaction. So there will be more to report because this thing's going now. This thing's happening again. I can't wait to share it. Take care of yourself. I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you soon.